Since the dawn of the Pokemon anime, people have always seen Misty as a romantic interest for Ash, and for a long time, it looked as though it were plausible. That is, until Serena came into the picture. Since then, OG fans of the series have had their childhood ship crushed and buried deep in the water. But what if I told you that that ship isn't underwater just yet, and that it lives on through their manga counterparts? For those of you that don't know, the Pokemon Adventures manga is a series that follows the story of the Pokemon games and creates a more intricate and fascinating story, with every character in the games having an important role to play in the events that unfold. It takes the smallest aspects of the games and fleshes it out while creating one cohesive story. And as it follows the games, Red, this guy that you know from the original games, is the main protagonist of the original Pokemon Adventures series, that being the Red, Blue, and Green volumes, and he appears throughout many of the other arcs in the story as well. Red, just like Ash, is this heroic shonen protagonist, brave, kind, outgoing, physically agile, and is always willing to help others. But unlike how Ash first started, he's actually quite the womanizer, and he likes the attention. But there are a few potential love interests for Red throughout the adventure story, and we covered a video talking about him in Yellow a while back, and while I want to cover a video talking about him in Green the girl, not the guy, we're gonna call this guy Blue so everyone's on the same page, you all told me that if Yellow isn't Red's love interest, it's gotta be Misty, and there's good reason for this. But there's also good reason to check out Webnovel, the sponsor of today's video. Just like Pokemon, we have a book on the beast taming genre to cover. The first Legendary Beastmaster is a web novel that features multiple different beast taming elements that's set in a Nijin world. Each beast comes with rich character designs, each possess distinct characteristics, which goes hand in hand with a well-rounded protagonist and stable framework to the story. Which, let's go over a brief introduction to the story. Born in a dirt-poor mining family, Carl only had one chance to get ahead in life: the annual Elite Recruitment Day. On their final day of middle school, every student in the Golden Dragon Nation was given an experimental injection to awaken their affinity with magic. Those few who succeeded would become the elite, the leaders and idols of the nation, blessed with their incredible magical powers and respected by all. Those who did not would return to the normal lives of hard work and low wages, just doing the best they could. But with the nation surrounded by enemies, both humans and monsters, how long would these peaceful days of magical idols last? Follow the story of Carl as he awakens a unique power and strives to become the world's first legendary Beastmaster. It's a story that many Pokemon fans would love, because I know many of you would have loved to see a story where Ash becomes the first Pokemon Master. This is just like that, but unlike Pokemon, the conflict of the story intensifies gradually, and while the overarching setting does become increasingly dark, it doesn't become oppressive because of the uniquely characterized beasts who help adjust the story's pace and introduce more lighter and relaxed plots. The author's writing here is also truly exceptional, and it comes with an ensemble cast with multiple viewpoints throughout the story. Download and check out the Webnovel app for free and search the first Legendary Beastmaster using my link in the description down below. Thanks again to Webnovel for sponsoring today's video. Just like Ash and Red from the games, Red from Adventures is on a hunt for all the gym badges in Kanto in order to compete in the Pokemon League and become the very best. And as soon as Red defeats Brock, we get this scene where Misty is bleeding while fighting a Gyarados. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that in the Pokemon Adventures manga, things get more real than real, as the trainers here are sometimes as equally involved in fights as the Pokemon are. We'll see another example of this in just a bit. The Gyarados attacks Misty's Staryu and Red steps in to help. Misty tells him to stay back as the situation is pretty dangerous, but she doesn't know that she's talking to the future champ of the Kanto region. And look at him, with the simple Bulbasaur, he's got his arms crossed and victory written all over his face, because apparently his Bulbasaur can take a shower from a Hydro Pump. But a leech seed from Bulbasaur is enough to make Gyarados freak out a bit. I don't know, man, doesn't make sense. At this moment, Misty commands Staryu to recover, and Red is impressed and teasingly says that they should start double dating, as a reference to him and Bulbasaur taking down Gyarados with Misty and Staryu. But I mean, there are less flirty ways to say that, so this is kind of where you start to see some major differences between Red and Ash, and Misty from the manga and the anime. Again, we already mentioned that Red likes the attention, as he even way later on when he first meets Green, he's all flustered by her and thinks he's so cool that she likes him, when in actuality, flirting and manipulating people to get things to go her way is kind of Green's whole thing. She was just using Red, but through that example and this interaction with Misty, you can tell how he acts at times. And you know, Ash would never dare to do such a thing. Misty in the anime, however, has been a bit of a romantic and showed interest in lovey-dovey things, and she has placed some importance on her looks and all before, but Misty from the game has specifically been a lot more flirtatious and teasy. Yeah, she's the tomboyish mermaid and all, but in Pokemon Yellow, Misty straight up says, "Are you ready, sweetie?" before she fights you. In the Johto games, she's on a date and all, showing that she's got a bit of lovey-dovey to her. And in the TCG, she's got artwork of her game counterparts to be a little flirty with a few winks here and there, with cards like Misty's Favor and Misty's Wish. Point is, the flirtatious nature isn't too crazy here, but you're gonna see sparks fly between these two real soon. Red and Misty take down Gyarados together, and we quickly find out that this Gyarados is actually Misty's Gyarados. It just happened to be stolen and experimented on by someone, thus causing it to go amok. Red, being Red, has a sense of justice activate, and he goes out to find out more about what happened, with Misty accompanying him. They ask Professor Oak, and this is the first the two learn of Team Rocket. They realize that Team Rocket is most likely heading towards Mount Moon, so Red heads off there to stop them, and Misty jumps in saying that she's gonna go there with them. But pay attention to Red's reactions here. Red thinks that Misty can't handle herself, but she surprises him when she pulls out a bunch of water-type Pokemon, and formally introduces herself as Misty from Cerulean City, not as a gym leader just yet. But as you can see, Red is very clearly flustered when Misty grabs its arm and all. When they reach Mount Moon, Red is showing off how reliable he is by using Pikachu to light up the cave, and he's also chatting up Misty in one panel big time. But they run into Team Rocket real quick, and the chat ends and a showdown begins, where Koga, yes, gym leader Koga, is a Team Rocket admin here and teases Red and Misty as Tom Sawyer and Little Becky, which are two fictional lovers in literature. Koga injects Rhyhorn with the serum to forcefully evolve into Rhydon, and Misty gets angry and asks if they're the ones who messed with her Gyarados. Koga doesn't get much of an answer, but the answer is yes. But he does use the knockback of Rhydon's horn drill to drive her against the wall, leading her to collapse. I told you, the manga doesn't play. Red, however, successfully beats Koga here and saves Misty by carrying her out of the cave, which she gets back at him by saying that he got her all dirty. Yeah, this is classic Misty for sure. Oh, and you may be wondering why I glossed over the fact that Koga is a Team Rocket member in the manga. And that's because I have a whole video on Team Rocket in the Adventures manga. And let me tell you, Koga and Giovanni aren't the only gym leaders that part of Team Rocket here, as this version of Team Rocket is easily the darkest and most threatening one. We're just about to get to the part where Misty dresses up and Red is totally flustered by her. But before we get there, if you are enjoying this video, be sure to subscribe so I know to make more manga content. And if you want to support the channel even further, maybe you want to join my members group to help fund the content and for some exclusive content for yourself. But you know what isn't exclusive? Red's love for girls. Once Red and Misty reach Cerulean City, Misty invites Red over to her mansion? It's a mansion. Yeah, this girl's loaded. And yeah, she's treated like a princess as her maids and all use honorifics like lady to refer to her. They also prepare this crazy meal for her, and since Misty's treated like royalty, she gets dressed like royalty, and Red is just stunned by her. But he's not so impressed by Misty anymore. He's got many women to talk to with this time, and he does just that. Even when Misty invites him to train to prepare for a bigger threat, Red just boasts about how good he is to the other girls and turns out Misty's offer. Misty storms off, and when Red is talking to his Pokemon about skipping training, Red mentions that there's no time to train because there's a whole mansion of cute maids for him to ask out. Suddenly, Red gets attacked in the middle of the night and can't stop thinking about it in the morning. That is until the cute maids come again and want to see Red's skills firsthand for themselves. Into that, Red claims that they can see Red fight against the Cerulean City gym leader and see Red kick his butt, to which of course all the maids laugh, and no, it's not because he said the word butt. Misty is kind enough to take Red to the Cerulean City gym leader, and Red is super impatient and calling the gym leader all sorts of things like calling them a moron, only to find out that he was walking with the moron in question the whole time. Red is in disbelief, and his sexism really shows if it hasn't been evident enough already, as he can't believe that Misty, out of all people, is the gym leader, and though he doesn't believe it, she attacks him until he does. The two start fighting, and Red asks her what's gotten into her. She starts breaking down in tears and mentions that she thought that he knew how she felt about the two of them as a team. A team? I don't know about you guys, but this emotional response could be the sign of something romantic. Maybe her whole thing about training from before was so that Red would stop flirting with her maids and spend time with her. Maybe, who knows? But whatever the deal is, Misty says they actually have to get stronger or Team Rocket will beat them. Red is quickly moved by her and understands that he doesn't have time to impress girls and that she doesn't have time for tears, and the two go off to train together. And after a few days of training, Red heads off with the Cascade badge. And though the maids are concerned if Misty should be letting Red go, Misty claims that the two have already learned from each other, but she looks forward to meeting him again. Fast forward to volume 2 when Red is trying to get the HM for Surf that's being protected by a Dragonite. He misplays and it looks like he's going to drown, but a Gyarados comes out of nowhere and starts to save him alongside a mermaid. And of course, this ends up being none other than Misty and her Gyarados. Misty tells Red that if she wants to cross the seas, she should have just came to her in the first place. Misty teaches Red how to surf on a Pokemon using Gyarados, and once the training is over, she actually lets him take Gyarados and it becomes one of his main Pokemon on his team. After that kind gesture, Misty begins to leave, but Red in shock asks her why she isn't coming along with him. And to that, she claims that as a gym leader, she's got a life of her own. However, after this, she does sneakily and flirtatiously go behind him and take Red's Krabby in exchange as a trade for Gyarados. And then because of the heart in the text, we can tell that she tells him bye in a flirtatious way, while Red is quite disappointed by her leaving. But later, we do cut to seeing Misty say that she wishes she could stay with him, and her wishing Red luck on getting the badges. I think it's clear from the first two volumes that Red and Misty have had some kind of romantic setup going on, but a lot of it disappeared starting from volume 3, and I think there's a good reason for this, but let's check the remainder of the interaction. In volume 3, we don't really see Red and Misty interact too much. Though Misty's present there, Misty just tells Red and Co that the Pokemon are all saved and are all good from Sylph Co. Then in the yellow volumes, it's a little tough to say. Red has disappeared in this arc and all of Kanto's out to find him. There, Misty expresses deep concerns about Red's well-being and wants to save him alongside the other gym leaders. She's often seen calling Erica throughout this arc, talking about Red, or if it's not about him, some concerns regarding what's happening in Kanto. We'll touch upon why this is important in a bit, but ultimately, since Red's Pikachu put all of its faith in Yellow, Misty alongside the other gym leaders put their place in Yellow as well, with Misty and Brock even giving Yellow a Pokemon of theirs that she keeps on her team for the rest of their series. This is obviously ironic because Yellow ends up being Red's main love interest, but at this point in time, almost everyone including Misty thought that Yellow was a boy, so she never would have guessed. But regardless, the point is, Misty and Red didn't have any room to interact here since the whole Yellow arc was a Red rescue mission. In the Gold, Silver, and Crystal chapters, Misty's there and she participates in the gym leader tournament, and she is relevant to the arc as she has a lot to do with Suicune, but again, hardly any interaction with Red. But at the very end of the Johto arc, something happens. As we established earlier, Misty has a habit of calling Erica, so when all of the crazy events from the Johto arc are over, we won't spoil too much because it's pretty insane and definitely needs another video for it. She ends up calling Erica to talk about things, but it turns out Erica's Pokegear is with Red, and to that, Misty freaks out, and again she begins crying. There, Yellow, who's now revealed to be a girl to Red, is all there worried that Misty is talking to the love of her life, and she even realizes that Red is a bit shy and nervous around Misty, almost like the guy has a crush on her. Green recognizes this, and she makes a comment about how they should all travel together, and this is basically just Green teasing Red, Yellow, and Misty, because when Red thought Yellow was a boy and realized how much his Pikachu loved her and didn't want to separate it from her, he out of nowhere claimed that they should all just live together. So here, Green's spinning it back on him, saying that if he can't choose a girl, then maybe they should all just travel together. Gold eventually recognizes what's going on and comes in to save Red from all the drama, and fortunately or unfortunately, this is where the interactions with Red and Misty all end. In my opinion, this is what happened. I think Red was originally written to be a more flirtatious and cocky character, but over time, he was written to be a more noble hero. I say this because Blue was written in a similar manner. He was also cocky, but just like Gary, he was more like a jerk. But as the manga progressed, Blue became more cool and stoic, giving him a different personality from his other counterparts. And you may argue that Red being more noble is like Ash, but Ash in the original anime series wasn't as noble as he is now. He was definitely closer to Red's original personality. Heck, Ash was even sexist back then. And of course, regarding him and Misty, I think Misty was actually set up to be his original love interest. You see, the people who make the Pokemon Adventures manga have to create a story that goes alongside the games, so they probably wanted to have a love interest for Red, but when Pokemon Blue came out in Japan, they had another potential option with Green as a love interest for him. But more so than that, when Pokemon Yellow came out, they most likely decided to cut the potential relationship with Red and Misty and pivot it all to Red and Yellow. They just adapted the story this way as the games progressed. Now I say this because since Yellow's been romantically involved with Red, the stuff with Red and Misty completely died down, minus that one scene at the end of Gen 2. And I also think that that one scene just came into play to tell the readers that, hey, the stuff with Red and Misty, it's done. We know it existed and we want to address it so it's not a loose end or anything, but it's done now that Yellow is here. Because really, in the beginning, it did look like Red and Misty were going to be a thing. And who knows, they may have had been a thing if Pokemon Yellow wasn't introduced, but we won't know that for sure. So while Red and Misty did have more going on than Ash and Misty, unfortunately, just like how Serena came in for Ash, Yellow came in for Red. And this is way before Serena. Sorry, Misty. Well, at least you still got that one boyfriend in the Johto games, and in the anime, you'll always have Tracy, of course. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys over on the next manga video, alright? Later.